Good morning, everybody. Hey, Ryan. Glad somebody's looking forward to it. All right, I'm out feeding cows, so we just got done feeding the herd. See if I can turn around and make it where y'all can see them all lined up. These old cows are a little more aggravating to deal with than the new cows. The feeder calves, they got it figured out pretty good. Maybe the sun won't be in y'all's eyes. There you go, you can see them all lined up. All right, let me head back to the barn. I'll shut the buggy off. That way maybe the audio will get a little better. Good morning, Davis Farm and Orchard. I'm glad you got on here. Y'all got any snow in Illinois? Y'all may be about to shake to death today. All right, that ought to be better there. All right, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to ENW Farms. I said we were going to start at 10 o'clock. I turned the live stream on just a little early just to make sure that I could get everything to work like it was supposed to. So we have officially been on YouTube 1 year this past week. And it was kind of one of those deals. You've heard me talk about it a little bit. I kind of started a YouTube channel more or less just for me. But I had push from a lot of people. Reading somebody's comment there. But it kind of stemmed from a friend of mine. He's been trying to get me to do it for about 5 years. And so I just thought, well, why not? Let's start something new in 24. I'm not getting any younger. And so I've got a bunch of nieces and nephews, and I wanted them to have the ability to go back and look back years down the road and say, hey, this is how Evan done it, or this is how Bubba done it. That's what they've always called me. Because when I was a kid, Ryan, I'll go ahead and answer your question now because it's going to be easier to answer it now. So this is a third generation family farm. This farm was started on this piece of property. We moved on it in 1976. Grandpa and his brother had farmed another farm 2 miles down the road. They originally started, I think, with about 80 acres. Both families, my grandpa and my grandma and my great uncle and his wife, both lived on that farm together. And they raised chickens and cattle and then sawmilled and worked whatever jobs they could find, odd jobs off the farm. But as both families began to have children, they separated. My great uncle and his two sons still own that piece of property. And Grandpa moved up the road 2 miles and bought this farm. And so we've been on this farm since 1976. And so when I was a kid, Grandpa was my babysitter. And so we farmed together all summer long. Anytime school was not in session, I was with him. So that's kind of how I got the bug and started that way. And so Grandpa, he got sick, and when I was in middle school, and he could still farm a little bit, but by that time I was starting to. Me and Mom and Dad were taking over everything. And so we are a cow calf operation, commercial cow calf, predominantly Simmental and Angus based. And we run about 40 cow calf pairs. That's about the maximum stocking rate that we can run. I do not farm full time. I'm actually an instructor for a diesel mechanics college, about an hour away from home. And so this is what most people refer to as a hobby farm, but I actually work more on the farm than I do at my real job. I jokingly tell my students and stuff that I come to work to relax. So that's kind of a little bit about the farm. We're comprised of some owned land. Majority of the land that we tend now is all lease ground. And that's where we cut all the hay. We do all of our corn planting and everything. We row crop all of that ground because it's better than what we have for our ability. I've said several times in my videos, this farm is a floodplain farm, so it's bad to flood out in the wintertime. And 50% of it. So it's hard to row crop it because even in the summertime, if we get big storms or something, then um, uh, we'll flood out down there. Hey, Julian, thanks. This was pre-YouTube. That's the farm brand. So of course the E and the W was for Grandpa. My grandpa's name was Willard, and then so I built that brand for my cows. And so that's our official hats and shirt logo. Some of you are lucky enough to have hats and shirts. That may be something coming in 25 too. But right now, I don't have them for sale. There's kind of my thing I give people or something. So I just want to take time and thank all of y'all. I took some notes, so if you see me reading, that's why. It's be good. Glad you can't see what I wrote because it's horrible. In 1 year of YouTube, we had 160,000 views. We had 4,700 likes, 277 comments, and 124 shares. And then we created 219 videos. And that was all just kind of videos of whatever we were doing for the day. Um, and a lot of it was hay season stuff. And I'm sure it's kind of boring right now because all it is feeding cows and, that kind of stuff. There's not a whole lot going on. And a lot of my equipment maintenance stuff has to be done on the warmer days. I'm not like one of the guys or a lot of the guys you see up north that have the big fancy shops. Um, it Down here we don't have that ability. I would love to have a big fancy shop like them, so we just make do with the sheds and stuff that we got, put on enough warm clothes and go that route. But that's what we've done in that amount of time. What's changing in 25? In 25, I said in Thursday's video that we were going to go to Monday, Thursday, and Saturday video schedule. And so just know that that's kind of what I'm shooting for. Now, when summertime comes around, we go to the hay fields, we may get more videos than that. You may get a bonus video a week or two. But for the most part, that's what we're going to stick with: Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. Davis Farm and Orchard, your question that you asked was what equipment's coming to the farm in 25. In 25, for sure, there's going to be a new hay tedder coming in. I haven't ordered it yet, but that's my slowest thing that I do, is ted and hay. Right now we run like a 17-foot hay tedder, but that's going to change. I can't decide if I'm going to go with a 26-footer or a 36-footer, but it's probably going to come down to money, and what's out there. I'm looking for something too. The problem with those bigger hay tedders is most of them stack vertically, and so it's getting in a lot of our barns because this farm is so old. The barns are short, so it's hard to get them in and out. So I'm looking something on a trailer. But I've got it narrowed down to either a Peckway or a Crone. But we don't really have a Crone dealer close by. We got a Peckway dealer. That's our co-op that we do all our business with. Whenever we get that, that's the main thing that we're going to do. We're always looking for different equipment. The biggest thing we're doing now is we're trying to modernize some of our equipment that's kind of more time-consuming equipment. But it's not anything like that's the only big thing we really got planned. Last year was the big hay mower, the C450. This year's going to be a bigger tedder. Eventually, I'd like to step up into a large inline square baler. If we get into selling a lot more hay that we're shipping, just to make it easier to stack and handle. Maybe a TMR mixer or Ashens mixer, but that's stuff down the road. We're not really worried about that next year. But tractor wise, we got plenty of tractors, but we're always looking. Something might come along and be cheap, and buy cheap horsepower to run on stuff. We've kind of got to where now that we got a tractor hooked to every piece of equipment, so we don't change equipment all the time or change tractors, which is nice. And what we're looking for tractor wise is kind of collector tractors, high horsepower, or really low production number tractors, is what we're looking for. Julian, to answer your question, yes, there'll be more drone videos this year. We're going, our guy that shoots our drone footage said that whenever we started back up this spring, to call him and he'd come back down. He's all excited about it. He loves to come down to the farm and shoot drone footage for us. It's not something he shoots a lot of, so he gets all kind of excited about it. So yeah, I hope to get him in the field, especially in the hay field, but it'll probably be on the Fort Knox farm. So that's when you'll see it. Maybe we can get him down when we're planting corn. I hope to plant corn in probably early May. That's mine and Bruce's goal this year, is to plant in the month of May. It'll be fun to see what else comes up from it. I think I was telling somebody the other day, one of the coolest things for me about the YouTube deal is, and especially the drone videos, is where that if you watch any of my videos, you see majority of the work done on the farm, it's me. And so I run all this equipment, and I've run it my whole entire life. Um, I'm 36 years old. I started farming with Grandpa when I was about 5 or 6, and by the time I was 8 or 9, he had me on a tractor, running the round baler in the hayfield. Mom about died. We both wound up in trouble. That was a day. Oh boy, me and Grandpa got scolded like two boy dogs. But he just kind of sniggered about it and went on. He wasn't worried about it. So I've run all this equipment my whole entire life, and I never get to see it run from outside. So with the YouTube channel, that's been the funnest thing for me, is to go back and sit down and just get to watch my equipment run in the field versus watching somebody else's equipment run in the field. And so for me, it's cool. The drone, Julian is talking about the drone videos. The coolest drone video I think we shot all year long, which was the only one that we got shot, was the square baling and round baling video. And I sat there and I watched all that equipment run. And whenever Grandpa was still alive and we were farming, we had 2 tractors. We had the Kubota M6800 and we had a John Deere 6200 that you may or may not have seen in any of the videos. I just don't run it much anymore. And right before he passed away, we had just bought the 7410. And the 7410, I will never forget that day. Me and Bruce, we went and got it and brought it home, and it had been repainted when we got it. And I drove it home and got Grandpa out and rolled him out in the driveway in his wheelchair and took him out there, and I was just proud as could be. Um, and I'll never forget what he told me. He told me then, he said, "You need to take it back to wherever you got it from, because we'll never be able to afford to buy fuel for that tractor." So Grandpa got to see that tractor run just a little bit before he passed away. But he never seen us run the square balers or run the corn picking stuff or any of that stuff. And so I sat there after watching that drone video, and I mean, you can say whatever you want to, but it made me sad, and I actually sat there and cried about it, because the fact that Grandpa, to see what our farm looks like now versus what it looked like whenever he passed away, it has not degressed, it's progressed in equipment, and it's changed a lot. And so we, it, I sat there and watched that video and thought to myself that he would never believe what the farm actually looks like, and the equipment and the amount of equipment that we run. And don't take that as me bragging about how much equipment we have. And I try to make it to where it doesn't feel like we're coming off that way. But it's just, to me, looking at those videos, that's the coolest thing. You ain't got to worry about us going up any newer than what we got now on the tractors. When I talk about updating tractors and stuff, I am not going to buy anything I can't repair myself. That's not going to happen. Um, it, I love running old school stuff. And if you look at majority of our stuff, it is all from the 70s and 80s. Newest tractor we got is 2009 year model, and that's as new as I'm coming. Hey, tractor boy, did you finally get out of bed? What's your favorite thing to do on the farm? Aggravate you whenever you're in the cab with me. It's anything corn related, or I love to mow hay. I love it, especially now that I got a big mower and it don't take long to do it. Anything that revolves around riding in the cab of the tractor is my favorite thing to do. And I'll sit there, and that's my happy place. The other thing, the next best thing is sitting in the cab of the excavator. Something about tearing trees down, digging holes, that kind of stuff. So Let's see. Ryan, you asked too, why do we run so much John Deere stuff? The John Deere stuff's what we had when I was a kid, and that's all I know. That I'll say this: pretty much now we run any brand there is except Massey Ferguson. But that's the main brand that we run. But John Deere on my farm, you're going to see a lot of John Deere stuff. On farms that me and Bruce tend together, Bruce is an Alice Chamber guy. You're going to see predominantly Alice Chamber stuff run. And so we don't care. Whatever's on each farm's what we run. It's not that big of a deal. So let's see. Anything else? I don't really have any other thing. Yeah, Ryan. I'm glad you like it. Glad I could help. Hey, Mel. Reading back through the comments. I mean, Tractor Boy, you need some more merch. What do you think our next merch needs to be? I actually, because I've got so many subscribers, I can set up a merch store, but I'm still just learning how to do all this. I think we'll try to get that set up. Because like I said, I got some stuff, but I just ain't got it set up. What made you want to be a diesel instructor and a mechanic? The reason why I wanted to be a mechanic was because I was tired of paying people to supposedly fix my stuff, and it wouldn't be repaired when I got it. How did I wind up as an instructor? Um, my two choices of career paths in high school was I wanted to be an ag teacher. That's what I really wanted to do. FFA was one of the greatest programs that could have ever been available to me. If you watch me work out here, you're gonna know I'm not athletic. Bruce's grandma always said I was Weasley because I was so little I couldn't do anything. So I was not an athlete. But FFA was my place to fit in. And I had two, and by the time we got up into high school, we had three of probably the greatest FFA advisors in my mind. They were three genuinely great role model men that they taught us more than just about FFA and farming activities. They taught us how to be great men in a community and ladies in a community. They taught us how to carry ourselves, life lessons. I mean, and we traveled all over the state of Georgia with them. Went to Indiana for national convention, went to Louisville, Kentucky for national convention. And I look back, and those 5 years of being involved in that organization were probably the best 5 years of my life when it comes to school. If you're a young person or you've got young people, get them involved in FFA, get them involved in 4-H. I was involved in both in middle school. When I got on into high school, I went into doing more with FFA because of the organization that we had. But the time when I graduated high school, I was pretty much tending the farm all the time. I was doing everything, and I had built up a pretty reputable size cow herd to being 18 years old. And so I knew that if I went to a 4-year college to get an ag teacher's degree, I was going to have to go to the University of Georgia, or I was going to have to go to Tifton and ABAC. And I did not want to put Dad and the place. Dad was still working full time. Mom has a full time job in our self storage business, and it really wasn't their operation. It was more my operation. It was my decision to be involved in the farm, and I didn't feel right leaving them with my responsibility. Um, and so I I decided to go to 2-year tech school, and commuted back and forth every day. It's actually the same school I teach for now. Um, but I went down there for 2 years, got an diploma in diesel equipment technology, then went back and I actually have an associate's degree in business management too. Um, but at the time, whenever I was down there, my instructor, Mr. Smith, he was a great guy too. He was another one of those role models. He was teaching more than how to be a mechanic. He taught students how to be valuable members of society, and he he began to inquire and try to talk to me about becoming an instructor. And so that's kind of how I wound up in that position. It worked out to where that's where whenever I got done with all my schooling and stuff, there was a job opening, and I went back part time for about 18 months, is what they refer to as an adjunct instructor, and then went full time about 18 months later and replaced Mr. Smith, who retired out, and I've been there 12 years. Um, some days I think that was a good decision. Some days I don't know that that was a good decision. Um, but it, I'll say this much about all career paths. Um, you can learn something from every job. Sometimes it's what a good job is when you get one. Sometimes it's what's a bad job. Um, but either way, that's how I wound up as an instructor. You think you're my favorite student, Ryan? Yeah, I don't know. That the verdict's still out there. But thank you for your first comment there. All right. Well, we've been at this about 30 minutes, so I think we got majority of the questions answered. That I can understand what you were asking. Um, so I'm not going to hold you any longer. I just wanted to come on and do something different for the 1 year deal of YouTube. Still, I guess we could set our goal for subscriber count. I mean, we did 700 subscribers in the first year, and I never would have guessed that we would have had that many. I still can't believe that anybody watches it. That blows my mind. Um, but I would like to see if we could at least do 1,000 subscribers. Um, it we'll see how it goes. And I'd like to have 1,700 subscribers by the end of the year next year. That would be our goal, I guess. So we can see what we can do there. So help us spread the word. Thanks for tuning in at E&W Farms, and we'll catch you on Monday in the video. Should be planting ryegrass, so that'll give you something to look forward to. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all.